It's your girl, Asia Like the Band. So, I put a poll out on Twitter the other day. Well, it was like 2 weeks ago, but I'm slacking, guys. Basically, I asked what my next video should be, and it was between Paranormal Experiences, 3 last-minute Halloween costume ideas, going through my old Halloween costumes, and DIYing something, and it said DIY something IDK what? Because I don't know. But anyways, so you guys chose Paranormal Experiences, so I'm here today to talk to you about some shit. I'll just start from the beginning, I guess. I think my very first paranormal experience, I was like 3 or 4, and my grandma had just passed away. And the only reason why I know this is because my mom tells me about it. I was in bed asleep, and this was like 2 hours after I'd already fallen asleep. I woke up, and apparently I saw like my grandma sitting on the edge of my bed, and it freaked me out, so I started screaming and then told my mom about it, and my mom was like, what the heck? I mean, up until like a few years ago, I didn't really have anything insane. It was mostly just like seeing things out of the corner of my eye, like hearing voices sometimes. I sound crazy. I promise I'm not. Fast forward several years, and we're in high school. And I think this one was like the most prominent to me, just because it was like the first one that really stood out to me. I think I was in my sophomore year of high school, maybe my junior year, I don't know. But I was heading home from work at Walmart, and it was like 10 o'clock at night. And it was like the middle of November, so like no one's gonna be outside. It was freezing, and there was no cars or houses or anything in walking distance of where this happened. I was driving and I went around a corner and I saw this guy just standing there, and he was in like a man tank and jeans. And it was like, mind you, like 20 degrees outside. This guy is in freezing weather in a tank top and jeans, and then he was like holding the side of his face and like kind of like representing like where his injury was. I get home like 10 minutes later, and my parents see me and they're like, you look like you've seen a ghost. And I was like, well, I feel like I did. And I told them who I saw and like gave them the description. And my stepdad, who worked for the fire department out in the area, told me that like 2 years before that, there was an accident in the same area. The guy had like the same exact description, and he was dead on arrival. He even had like blunt force trauma to the same side of his head that his hand was on. And so I was like, oh, okay, all right. So I just saw a ghost, and I'm not feeling it. Fast forward again. Basically what happened was my mom, who's her friend from high school, is actually a medium. She can communicate with spirits and like other dimensions and stuff like that. But she already like talked to me and my mom about being empaths. And an empath is basically someone who feels other people's emotions just by being near them. They don't even have to like hear them, they don't have to like see them, they just feel the emotions. That's why people, like most people who have really severe social anxiety, tend to be really strong empaths, because they're getting all of these different emotions just coming and hitting them all at once, and they don't know what to do, so they just freak out, they clam up, they don't know, you know. I have really bad anxiety when it comes to that kind of stuff, and I realize it's now because of feeling everyone's emotions. Like at the All Time Low concert that I went to, and that I talked about in my last video, I was like in between sets, I had to like breathe. I had to put my hands above my head and like close my eyes and like ground myself, because I was starting to have a panic attack from everyone throwing their emotions at me unknowingly. end up having a couple smaller experiences, just orbs, things out of the corner of my eye. And I talked to her about it, and she goes, oh, well, you have medium capabilities. Most empaths do. But some empaths are stronger than others, and they can pick up on more things and tend to have more paranormal experiences. And so I was like, this makes a lot of sense. This is more recent stuff. I'd say it was about a year ago now that this happened. Mom and I were walking on the road out by my house. We were just taking a walk and talking. And we passed by this one specific area. And it just felt weird. It wasn't a good feeling. It just didn't feel right. I was like, okay, something's not wrong here. And we passed by this one section of the road, and I get this vision in the back of my head, and it's basically what's happening behind me as I'm walking, and I see this like just pure white figure, like lanky humanoid figure, just crawling out of the ditch and starting to follow me and my mom. So my mom, she felt me tense up, she felt me freak out, and she was like, did you see it too? And I was like, you had the vision? And I told her like what I saw, and she was like, I saw the same thing, except it was like a dog that was following us. So I was like, okay, something is not right. So like at this point I was freaking out. I was like almost crying because just not no. And my mom was just like, you need to calm down, like you're not gonna like be able to like do anything if you don't chill. And so I had to breathe and stop freaking out, because by the time that I was like still freaking out, it had already gone, it already passed, like we couldn't move from where it was. And so I was just overreacting. Recently, it was, I'd say 6 months ago, I was asleep in my room, in my bed. So the head of my bed was up against the pictures here, and then the foot was like down here, and I was laying sideways, so my face was facing this way, and I'm like in this half awake, half asleep dream state kind of, and I look out into like this corner of my bedroom over here, and there was just this little girl just staring at me. And at first I thought it was my mom coming in to say like, you need to get up, like let's go. But I was like, the lights are still off, my mom's not talking, like that's not her. And so like my brain started to like clarify everything a little bit and realize that like someone was like watching me. And so I kind of like froze, couldn't say anything, just stared at her wide-eyed. And she's just little girl, like, I mean, maybe to my shoulder, and she had like blonde hair. It was in a beanie, and she had a jacket on, and she was glaring at me like pissed. But it wasn't necessarily at me. She wasn't mad at me. She's just mad. And so it freaked me out. And so she slowly starts like disappearing. And as soon as like she completely disappears from sight, she just dissolves into thin air. As soon as she's gone, my mom opens the door and tells me to wake up. You need to like get ready for school. And I was like, what just happened? And so moving on to the next night, the next night I had a dream about her, and it was at school. She was in the door, which is like an all glass door, but she was like watching me through the door, and she'd taken her hat off, but she was still in the jacket, and she was less mad. And it was a little odd. And so the next night after that dream, I had another dream. But she came to me in like the reflection of like a butcher knife, and she didn't have her jacket on or the beanie on anymore, and she was less mad as well. So like slowly she was like becoming less and less angry. And I was like, thank goodness, because she showed up in a freaking butcher knife, okay? A butcher knife in my last dream. That's just, no. No. But yeah, and so like I told my mom, and she was like, all right, let me talk to blah 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 and we'll get it figured out. And so her medium friend told her that she would try and contact her and see what's going on, like trying to figure out what this little girl wants. And so she did, and it turns out this little girl just wanted her purse and didn't even know that she was dead. And I was like, first of all, I didn't even have a purse. Like my mama asked me, she goes, did you get a purse from the thrift store recently? And I was like, no, why? She's like, oh, well, the little girl apparently didn't know she was dead and just wanted her purse back. And I was like, oh, bueno. So in the corner of my room, I don't know, I think I've shown you guys like my instrument corner. There's this figure that just kind of like hangs out there sometimes. Haven't seen him in a couple years, but he's a taller guy. And he's got like this really long trench coat, you know, like the trench coats that are like all the way to the floor. And then like the hat, you know, kind of like what like detectives wear in like those old movies. But like this guy's just a silhouette. He's not even full apparition or anything like that. He's just this silhouette that just sits in the corner, and he like faces the rest of the room, but he like, so like he still faces the same way but still goes in a circle, in the same like circle on the same area. And it's, I don't know, he's not like hostile. I feel like he's like a kind of a protective figure, but I haven't seen him in a while, so I'm guessing he doesn't need to be here. But that happens. And then when I was in college, my roommate and I, we had our two beds like across from each other. So I'm gonna like give you a little layout right here. So like this is the door, and then up here is my bed, and my roommate's bed is like on this wall. And then in this back corner we had like all of our kitchen stuff. So she had her dresser kind of like hanging out, and then a fridge, our mini fridge on top of that. And so sometimes I would just leave a plate there just to wash it in the morning when I go and get ready for classes the next day, because I would eat pizza at like midnight and I want to go all the way to the bathroom just to wash a plate. And so I would just leave it up there. And then, so like our windows are closed, like there's no breeze, the door is closed. It's, nothing could have caused anything to happen like this. But I woke up to a plate flying across the room, and it freaked me out. My roommate woke up too, and she's like, did you hear that? And I was like, yeah, I think the plate just flew across the room. And she was like, oh, okay. And so I kind of let it sit there for a couple of nights to see if it would happen again. And each and every night that it was there, it flew off. And so like, it's not even like something could have tipped it over and like it fell just like right next to it. No, it flew halfway across the room. That's like a good 5 feet of air that it has to go through to land where it landed from the fridge. And it was just super freaky. So I tell my mom about it, and she goes, oh, well, maybe it's your grandma. She had a thing about dirty plates. And I was like, okay. And then I told my roommate about it while we were in the room, and I left it another night, and it didn't happen again. So I'm gonna guess it was my grandma or something like that. But yeah, so those are my ghost stories. Comment down below if you guys have any of your own, because I can definitely make like another video of all of your guys' ghost stories and like react to them. Make sure to like and subscribe if you like my content, even though it's bullshit. I don't even know what I'm doing, so just hit me up, okay? I love you guys. Thank you so much for being here and watching, being cool, and you guys are awesome. And I love you. Bye.